This morning, I've invited the CEO of Australian Workforce, 𝗓𝙗𝙬, to talk to us about making the most of opportunities in the workforce and some helpful hints and tips. Good morning, Danny, and welcome to Sri Lanka Morning Show.
Good morning.
Danny, my first question to you is, how long have you been in the recruitment business for?
I've been in the business about 15 years. And in that period, I personally may have interviewed possibly over 3,000 people and placed them in the jobs as well. So it's quite some time.
So if someone's looking for a job, say they're new to the country or they just want a career change, what's their starting point?
Starting point is actually having a good resume done with all the skills that you have, also the kind of jobs we're looking for, and possibly good cover letter as well. That would be your starting point.
So once you have your resume and the cover letter done, what's the next step from there?
Now the next step is actually applying for the jobs, and these days a lot of it is happening in an online format, directly through the agencies such as Australian Workforce and in online portals as well. So when we're doing that, it is very important having the resumes in the standard formats such as MS Word kind of a format, so it's widely commonly used. And so also it's not a bad idea to have 2-3 different types of resumes based on the kind of jobs you're planning to apply for. So you customize your resume rather than sending one generic resume to all the jobs. So you got different versions of resume. If you are overqualified, sometime may not want to put into one particular job. So you do have your resume which is not with the high qualification, which applicable to certain jobs. So it's very important in that process, because sometimes you may not get jobs simply because you're overqualified.
So once I've submitted my resume into, say, the Australian Workforce, what do you then do with my resume?
What will happen with your resume will go into a database, possibly with another 5,000 people. So it's very important you have your keywords in your resume. For example, if you're applying for a sales job, that may be the shop front or so, and you got to make sure that words that sales being mentioned in your resume few times. What will happen is you'll be used to software such as like a Fast Track or the industry specific softwares. These softwares, what they do is they actually look at your relevancy for the job, maybe the locality as well. So more you mention that particular skill, the software automatically thinks that you're more relevant to that job. So you might have 2 people that got the same qualification, but in your resume you may have in the sales be mentioned 3 times, the other person maybe have mentioned twice, based on the job you're applying. So your resume will come on the top than the other person. So it's important to understand that process so you can make sure that your resume come on the top, therefore that you get more relevancy to the job, I suppose.
Danny, my next question is that most people applying for jobs think either they're too old or they're too young. What do you have to say for this?
Now, I come across this all the time. And I actually say to the people, this is actually inside your head. The employer really not looking at whether your age high or low. Employers simply want to get a person who's going to do their job to the perfect level. So most likely it's your own conscious, you're thinking I'm too old or too young or too experienced. So first step is actually, overcome from that and then go as in, put your best case forward and go from that, get over your own little hang-ups is a very important part in here.
So once you've submitted your resume and the Australian Workforce have had my resume in your database, what is that expected time period, it's called the waiting period, that people should expect, and what can they do whilst they hear a response? Now,
there is no direct answer to that, because the time could vary from the smaller amount to a bigger amount of time. It depends on your particular skill block. If you're a very high skill person that trying to find a high skill job, it may take longer than the usual casual labor job, for example. So that could vary, but a good way you can utilize that time is while you're waiting, and it's very good to do the upskilling yourself or do there's a lot of government funded training in these days, and whichever the area you like to get upskill yourself or doing some voluntary work. So while that the application process is happening, you could look into the options of training, which we organize that for our applicants as well. That's a fantastic way to get the opportunity much bigger for yourself. And that will be the best way to go about that.
Thank you, Danny, for all your helpful hints today. Obviously, today's been quite a general overview. Now, if our viewers back home want specific details or they have further questions for you, how can they contact you?
You can contact me on my 1300 number, which is 1300 795 965, most weekdays that I'm available.
Thank you, Danny, once again for this morning. We'll obviously see you again in the future episodes with more helpful hints in the workforce.
Thank you. You're welcome, Hasini.